Dosm's Rentals.
Hey YouTube, Dosm Rider here, and welcome to my Holiday Buyer's Guide for 2021. This is my annual video where I give general picks for things to pick up for the holiday season, either for yourself or others. Primarily it's targeted toward the stuff I do on my channel, you know, toy reviews and toku stuff, but with a few other recommendations thrown in there, here and there. So let's go ahead and get started with the toy category. I will start with Power Rangers, as there's actually been several good recommendations for this year. Just to get this out of the way, I didn't necessarily have one or two specific lightning recommendations this year that I'd be like, you gotta buy this figure. But I think there's been a lot of neat releases in the last couple years. So I would say that if there's anything you're interested in, look into it. And I can definitely recommend picking up lightning figures for yourself or others of things that you may or may not be interested in. But I just didn't have any ones that specifically stood out. But I think there's been a good variety of releases that you could probably make many different fans happy. Now getting on to more specifics, I will say the Power Rangers Dino Fury Zords that finally arrived after 10,000 years. They're free and they're here to conquer Earth, and there's a couple different ways you can get them. They sell them individually in 3 different sets. You have, it's like green and blue and pink and black, they're like mismatched, and then you have red by itself. And you can get them individually in stores or online, and then they also have what I got, which is the big 5-pack that comes with like all the keys and all the Zords and stuff like that. And if you've seen the review, you know I have a very high opinion of them. They're not 100% perfect, but they're pretty awesome. They look really great. They look even more show accurate than the Japanese versions. You get some great dynamic poses with them. They feel more sturdy overall than the Beast Morphers ones. I think they really took, you know, what worked about the Beast Morphers ones and just improved on them. And thus far, you know, even though I bought the 5-pack on Amazon, which is an exclusive, I have actually seen, when I've been at Targets and Walmarts, the individual releases fairly often. So I would say that that's a good sign, because we know in Beast Morphers there was a big problem with the Zords disappearing off shelves, and in the case of Red and Gold, never showing up at all for some people. So I would say if you want to get the individual ones, just to be safe, I would pick them up quickly before the holiday season runs out, because even though it's been an encouraging sign, after the holiday season in which the Beast Morphers Zords came out, at least the ones I saw on store shelves, I never saw them again. They disappeared like after January and never came back. I'm not saying that's going to happen this time, but better be safe than sorry. Also for Dino Fury recommendations, another Amazon exclusive is the 5-figure pack that comes with green and black, which are not available yet on regular retail. If you do want to wait, they are going to come out individually, supposedly in 2022. But if you don't want to wait and you just don't mind having double dipping, or you haven't bought any yet, it's a neat set. They're not perfect figures, but for the price of being basic figures, they're still pretty cool. And plus you get a bonus of the keys and the little holder as well. A recommendation you might not expect for this list is actually the Chroma Fury Saber. This is effectively at the moment our main release of the Saber, which is kind of strange because its main gimmick is color scanning. You can actually put the keys in there. It doesn't read them or anything, but at least you can do that if you want to reenact it from the show. And I was very apprehensive about this release because I thought it was really strange, especially when Hasbro acted like scanning colors is an activity kids have enjoyed for generations, and literally it's the first time it's ever come up. That being said, it was a lot more of a fun release than I thought it was going to be. Probably not the best overall pick for collectors, but I think it's something that kids will get a lot of enjoyment out of, and I thought it was much more of just an overall fun release than I thought, and I thought I got a lot of unnecessary hate after actually getting my hands on it. Now moving on to Sentai for the Zen Kaiju line, which if you guys know has been kind of a very lukewarm line for me, but I do have a couple of recommendations for it, mainly mecha ones. Number one I would say is the Zen Roku set, where you basically get this triple changer, where you get a blaster, you get an individual vehicle form, and then if you have the Zen Kaiju forms, you can get the closest thing we've gotten to a Fuster Cluck in years. It's not perfect. Like a lot of designs, it's a little bit fugly, but I think it's one of the stronger releases in the line, as you get a lot of different playability with it. And again, if you have the other Zen Kaijus, it's nice to have the closest thing in years to having a big formation. Also, even though it's also not perfect, I really do like Zen Kaiju O. I like its design. You also get a good amount of versatility there with the multiple mode changes. And again, if you have Zen Kaiju, you can transform it with that, which is nice. It's not perfect, but I think it's the best design, and you get a lot of versatility with it if you're looking for something Sentai related this year. Now for Rider, I haven't been collecting as much Rider stuff, so I don't have as many recommendations, but I'll say that I can generally recommend Revice's driver. It's not the best driver, but it's still pretty neat. I've learned to really like the sounds of the Vice stamps, even though they can be a bit repetitive in the driver, and I think if you're really enjoying the Revice show, or you know someone that is, then you'll probably enjoy it. Also, shout out and recommendation for the Revice figures. In general, I really have liked these alternative figures for gimmicks that they've been doing because for the most part over the years, they've looked pretty good and are a pretty nice, cheaper alternative to figure arts. But the Revice ones have been some of the best looking ever in terms of being a substitute or something cheaper for figure arts. Not to mention you get the added fun of the combination mode. And what I like about it is even though you have the combination mode, it doesn't hinder the overall look of it that much. Also, just as kind of another blanket recommendation similar to the Lightning Collection, there's a ton of complete selection belts out there, and if you're looking for something a little bit more big and exciting, like a Kiva belt or a Decade belt or Blade belt or whatever, those are generally a really nice pick that usually feel worth the money. They look really nice, they have great sounds, almost too many sounds, but still I think it makes for a good pick. Now for some non-Toku related toy stuff, for Ben 10 there's a couple good Omnitrix releases. You know, the Omnitrix creator wasn't exactly perfect and I think there could have been some tweaks with it, but still it's a pretty neat release to be able to have both Ben and Kevin's Omnitrix and Antitrixes, and I think kids especially will get a kick out of it. And with Ben 10 toys potentially disappearing off the shelves, you might want to pick it up. Speaking of, the Omnistrike Omnitrix is the last Omnitrix releasing for right now. Again, not perfect, but it's still pretty cool. It's like an updated version of the old View Scope, and it's one of the most accurate feeling in terms of the way it functions, and if you get your hands on this before they start to disappear, it's a good pick. And again, like I just mentioned, the Ben 10 toys might start disappearing off shelves because it's kind of taking a break for a while. And if that's the case, you might want to pick up some figures. And I've always found the Playmates Ben 10 toys to have some really overall nice figures. And I still see them on shelves. So in case they do disappear off shelves and you see any that you like, I recommend maybe picking them up. Then for Bakugan, just for my only little Bakugan pick in here is that Dragonoid set. You get a bunch of different ones you transform into one kind of mecha being effectively. And this is a really cool release. I think it's cool not only for people that play the game, but if you don't play the game and just like collecting them for aesthetics, it's just a fun set where you get a nice little variety pack of all the different kinds from this wave, and they all combine into this one thing that kind of pushes all the buttons for people that like mecha collecting. For a few little Star Wars recommendations, I have the Galactic Snackin' Grogu. If you wanted the animatronic Baby Yoda Grogu and you haven't been able to find it or whatever, I don't know if it's still hard to get, this is the second best option. You know, I did the review and I compared them, and I would say that if you can't get your hands on it, I don't know if the animatronic one is still rare. I know that last year people had a hard time finding it, but if it's still rare, this really is the second best one. It still looks pretty good. It's got the closest animatronic features, and the ability to sort of do all these different features with the little snack toys that he comes with is kind of fun. I think kids will obviously really like this, but also if you're a collector and you wanted something Baby Yoda Grogu related for the shelf, but you also might want to just every now and then turn it on and have some sort of animatronic amusement, it's the second best option to the animatronic one. Also is the Black Series Force FX Mandalorian Darksaber. These are always really cool for people that like having sort of really close to show accurate lightsabers. They're very pricey, but really neat. I think this is one of my more favorite releases though, because it's very unique. You know, if you get a lot of these, a lot of them have the same sounds, so it's nice to have ones like this or like Kylo Ren's that have different sounds. So not only is it different, but I think it displays as one of the best. Something that's nice about these more recent releases is you can separate the hilt, so you can just display the hilt if you don't want just a white tube on display. But with this one, because of the way the Darksaber looks, you can display it with the blade on there without having to take it out, and it still looks decently show accurate, and it's just overall a neat release. I don't know how easy it is to find still, because I know it came out last year, but I can also recommend the kid toy version. Like, it doesn't look anywhere near as accurate to the show as the Black Series one, but for the kid version, it's not overall bad looking and has some decently comparable sounds for a cheaper price. Now getting into some non-toy related stuff. Talking about comic books, you know, the Power Rangers comic books are out there and whatnot, and I only have a couple little picks. I want to give a shout out to Draken New Dawn, which came out this year, and now you can get the compilation. I think this was really one of the underrated releases of recent years, and just this recent year in general. I think it kind of flew under the radar. I thought it was a really strong series. I actually wish it could have been a couple issues longer, but it was some nice world building for the World of the Coin List with some good character stuff. Leaves off on kind of a cliffhanger for stuff we might pick up later, but I thought it really flew under the radar. Also, this didn't come out this year, but they did start showing off the Power Rangers TMNT Lightning Collection figures a lot of people pre-ordered, and there were some people that did not know where that came from, and it came from this, and I just want to draw attention to it again because I liked this way more than I thought I would. It was a really neat comic. I can definitely recommend checking it out. If someone who's not that into crossovers like me and wasn't that excited, you can really like it, definitely recommend checking it out. I haven't read a ton of other comics this year or anything like that, but I have gotten into the Star Wars High Republic, and I can recommend checking out both the comics and the books. I think this is a really neat and unique era we've had so far. It's bleeding over into a bunch of different types of books of different classes, and then the comics and other things, and it's just kind of a neat and unique era, and it's been neat for me to get on the ground floor of an era, because I've only sporadically checked out Star Wars book stuff over the years, and since we're just at the beginning, if you've ever wanted to jump in and keep up with an ongoing book series, especially one that's of a new era that isn't of the usually explored, I think it's a neat time to do it. Also, this is not comic related, but I can recommend, this is the Sentai 45th Anniversary Encyclopedia book. These things are really neat. I always really enjoy little nerd compilation books like this. Like, even though I can't read it, if you can read Japanese, you'll be even more rewarded by the fact that you can read it. But it's just really neat to be able to flip through and you get to see all the history of the designs of the Megazords and the weapons and the morphers, and they kind of go by category and show all these interesting little things. And if you're a Sentai fan, it's just kind of like a cool coffee table book in a way. As far as movies go, I actually saw quite a bit of movies this year, and there's lots of neat movies on there, but ones that I can think off of the top of my head that are out now, not in terms of theaters, but you can buy, is I really enjoyed the new Suicide Squad movie. Shang-Chi was really awesome, lots of really great martial arts stunts if you're into that. And also Quiet Place Part 2 was probably one of my favorite movies of the year. It was just a really great horror movie, and I really enjoyed that movie. But there's a lot of really good movies this year. I usually have a couple video game recommendations, but this time I actually don't, because I've been really bad at keeping up with video games in the most recent years. So all the games that I've played pretty much this year have been older games from years ago or last year, as I've been trying to catch up on a backlog. So I have played very few new games this year for any recommendations. The only one I can really think of is the new Diamond and Pearl remakes, just because I love Pokemon. But that is it for this year's Holiday Buyer's Guide. If you have any recommendations for Toku fans or other types of fans in the comments, just leave them below. Hope you guys are all having a good holiday season so far, and I will see you again soon, and of course I'll be here with a similar video with my best of the year pretty soon as well. But until next time, don't forget to like, comment, subscribe, and climb the steps and ring that bell so you get notifications for my videos. Dosm Rider, signing out.